Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Goud crowd. I guess I don't get an intro anymore. My show intro seems to have been killed. Okay, so I am back.
We changed the intros around, and we're gonna have some commercials. We got a bunch of stuff coming, Goud. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
You've been out of town. You haven't been with us, so.
Very true. Very true.
All right.
Okay. Well, I guess it's coming back.
It's all yours.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm back. Sorry, I was gone last week. I was traveling a little bit. I went to Idaho, beautiful Idaho. And then I went to sunny San Diego. Although it's sunny there with perfect weather, not sunny and obscenely hot like it is here. I think if you listen regularly, I have a lot of family that lives in San Diego. And so I went down for Comic-Con. And I had a couple of observations that I think are kind of interesting. One is, I think San Diego is probably one of the most beautiful cities in the country. It might be the most beautiful one in that it's like right on the water, right on the ocean. They did a really good job, I think, in terms of how the downtown is set up, the city itself. But the Comic-Con is actually downtown. It's in the convention center. Right across from the convention center is the Gaslamp District, which is one of their really nice areas. It's got all these great restaurants, entertainment. The baseball team plays down there. Oh, I guess the Mr. Producer used to go every year. And then he said it got weird. Well, I would have assumed that it was always weird, but because it is about comic books. Maybe it was different back then. I don't know. So anyway, so some of the events though were in the Gaslamp District. So for example, we went to the Hard Rock restaurant, and they have, I think, a convention area or meeting area on the second floor, and they had this where you can learn how to play the game Magic the Gathering with Spider-Man cards. So so Mr. Producer says always weird is correct. It got weirder. Yeah. Okay, I can see that. And so Magic the Gathering, which I've never played before. And now I got a bunch of decks of cards. They kind of taught us the basics. Although if anybody knows how to play Magic the Gathering and wants to teach me how to play it better, I would love to learn. It was pretty fascinating. But as we were standing in line to get into this event with the class, homeless guy, multiple homeless people in the Gaslamp all over the place, and then literal human poop on the sidewalk. That is disgusting. But it shows you the problems that California has. That allowing people to poop on your sidewalks is a choice. That's a choice that people are making. And it will always happen if you elect Democrats into office. So if it's not already happening in Salt Lake City, it is only a matter of time before you start to see poop on the sidewalks in Salt Lake City. I will guarantee that, because you have a woke mayor. You have all the woke freaks on that Salt Lake City Council. They do not care about quality of life issues. They are woke, apparently. And then Mr. Producer says, "Have you been to Pioneer Park?" I have not. I have not been there in a while. Although, is Pioneer Park the one that the City Council building is in the middle of? I don't know if that's the answer to that. But then I was going to say Mr. Producer's not sure. If somebody else knows, feel free to leave a comment. So on top of that, so just this, again, beautiful city. I mean, beautiful, right? Perfect weather. It's sunny, clear skies, blue, perfect weather in the 70s. Cannot complain. And then you have smelly homeless people. And I feel bad for them because the guy was like itching his leg, and I was looking at his leg because he has his pant pulled up. And his skin looks so weird. I've never seen that before. And I think that's from lack of treatment, lack of moisturizer, being outside all the time. His body is being destroyed. And then, like I said, human excrement on the sidewalks. No normal person wants to live like that. as a homeless guy, and no normal people want their cities to be ruined like that. That is a woke concept where people are taught that the way you sympathize with people is to allow them to live on the streets like that and then allow them to poop on your sidewalks. It's disgusting. Now, the second part was, the panels were so woke. I mean, this is my first time going to Comic-Con, so I saw that Dr. Manhattan actually posted this one, so let me share it with you. I'm gonna just talk over it because you can kind of, you don't need to hear it to understand what I'm talking about here. But if you look, this was the this is the trailer for Star Trek Starfleet Academy. As soon as the cast of this show walked out, it's a brand new show they're coming out with. I was like, this is woke, totally woke. Every single actor in it is a minority, except for the white woman. They have one white woman who leads the academy. So that's your cast. The minute you see those people walk out, they purposely excluded white men, and it's going to be completely woke. So I don't know how much has changed in Hollywood if this is the type of stuff they're coming out with, and they're touting it as you're going to be so excited about this show, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I will say they only showed a preview for this one. In another one, Star Trek Brave New Worlds, they actually had an episode that they showed us. It was this weird murder mystery, and I gotta say, it was so boring. It's horrible, so bad. And I've watched enough Star Trek that I think it's good. I'm more of a Star Wars fan, but I'm not anti-Star Trek, and I grew up with a lot of people who like Star Trek a lot. So to see it go woke like this is kind of sad, I think. Now, the final thing I'll tell you is there were a lot of the panels were talking about how art is under threat in the country, and they didn't say it explicitly, but the implication was because Trump is in office. And I just sat there, I was like, you guys are so unaware. For people that think you're super smart, you're super aware of the world, you're artists and this and that, you have no awareness of the reality that, like, under Biden, for 4 years, we essentially lived in a dictatorship where people who were not making approved statements were being targeted by the government. So if you were anti being forced to take their clot shot, if you were fighting pornographic and demented books that leftists like to push into your schools, you were labeled as a domestic terrorist. They were trying to shut down all speech that they do not like, anything that opposed the regime and their power. That is what you should be concerned about when it comes to if you're an artist, because that could easily be turned on you if you suddenly start changing the things that you believe in. Now, the reality is, Hollywood supports all the things that the establishment supports. So if the pornographic books are in your schools because establishment politicians from both parties are okay with them being there, that's the fact. Hollywood supports those books being in the schools. They were opposed. Hollywood was all pro pushing vaccine mandates. And by the way, they've made movies about these dystopian societies. I remember I saw one. I saw it just as Contagion. I think it's called Contagion. And I saw it just as the pandemic stuff started. And I remember watching it and being horrified because they had like travel restrictions, they had all sorts of stuff to prevent the spread of an actual deadly virus, not COVID, which was really not that big of a deal, but an actual mass casualty deadly virus. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, like basically these people had given up all of their freedoms in order to prevent themselves from getting a virus. This is horrifying, and this is clearly where this could lead. So at one time, Hollywood understood the threats and the danger of allowing your government to run amok like we did in 2020 and 2021. And even, throughout Biden's presidency, but now they're pretending like Trump is the problem. Trump, like, you have complete free free speech and the ability to make whatever movie you want, and nobody cares. You're actually free. You were not free for the previous 4 years because all you had to do was make something that they opposed, and they would come after it hard. Think about the movies that came out that they didn't like. It was things like 2,000 Mules, the Freedom one, Sound of Freedom. Remember, suddenly there's no such thing as child trafficking because they were trafficking children, right? Remember, the Biden administration lost 300,000 illegal alien children in the U.S., and nobody seems interested. No Democrat is interested in finding them, and I think it's because most of them were trafficked to Democrat donors. So they're slave labor on farms, like you saw a few weeks ago. There was a marijuana farm where there were multiple minors who are illegal aliens, slave labor on the marijuana farm. And I think others were actually trafficked into Democrat households to be sexually abused. And that's my view on it. I'm gonna say I think that's what happened, and that's why they couldn't find them. Mr. Producer says, all the while the media was telling us that democracy was dying. Yeah, word. While they were the perpetrators. Projection at its finest. It's true. It's true. That's why I find it annoying. You have to listen to these Hollywood losers. Like there's no threat to them ever. They have no threats. Republicans will never threaten them, and the Democrats, they support everything the Democrats want to do. So they have no threat. They're not actually like normal everyday people, like you see in Utah, where grassroots people rose up to fight these mandates, like mask mandates, to fight COVID mandates, which we had to do here. To fight porno books being given to your kids in schools. We live in Utah, and you have school districts here literally have pornographic books on the shelves. Your public libraries still have pornographic books on the shelves available to your children. Nothing has been effectively done to get these books off the shelves in either the schools or the public libraries. And as I have said previously, it's on purpose. They could solve this problem, the legislature, tomorrow if they wanted to. All they have to do is pass a law that says, if you take the book and read it at a public meeting, and they say you cannot read it because it will violate, there's some law where you can't read obscenity at these meetings, then the book has to be pulled from the shelf. Problem solved. It's that easy. Notice our legislature won't do that. Instead, they've set up these super complicated, if you think a book is offensive because it has absolute obvious pornography in it, you have to take it to a committee of 10 parents, and the parents are all going to read it, and they're going to spend months and months debating it, and then they're going to vote on whether it should be taken out of the library, the school library, and then the school board gets to vote on it, and all these complicated processes. It's so dumb. This is typical Utah, because really what they're trying to do is they're using it as a fundraiser. So if they never solve the problem, every single session they'll come back to you and tell you, you guys, see, if you reelect me, I'm going to finally solve the book problem. But you got to give me money first, and you got to help me get reelected, or what? Those porno books are going to stay, and your kids are going to have to read them. And so I just think it's a grift. That's all it is. They haven't solved it because they're grifting. Okay, the final thing is this. I met these people who run the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, and I thought that was pretty funny because I feel bad. Now I feel kind of bad because I was talking to this lady, and then she while we were talking, and I was interested because they protect the First Amendment rights of comic books, and I believe in a lot of ways I'm a First Amendment absolutist. So what she said then, her first example was, yeah, we just had a big win about genderqueer in Virginia Beach. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. Done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. But it turns out I actually should have asked her more questions, because I assumed, probably, I guess reasonably, and let me ask that, one of my nephews was with me, so I didn't really want to get into this in too much detail. But it turned out that they were not trying to get the book into schools. Virginia actually has a law that says you can petition the government, and if a book is labeled as obscenity, they can ban it from being sold in the state. Now, I'm opposed to having genderqueer in schools and public libraries and accessible to children, but I'm certainly not for banning it from being sold. So I think actually what they did was a good thing. That the court in that case actually said that the law violates the First Amendment and overturned it. So kudos to them. Maybe next time I'll try to be a little bit more open-minded and not make assumptions when I'm talking to somebody about what they're going to say. I feel a little bit bad about that. One other thing is there were booksellers who sell books to teenagers and children handing out pronoun pins. So, the wokeness is not gone yet. We haven't actually fully won this battle or even the war. And so it continues. Yeah. And so for all of you out there that are opposed to woke things, the trans agenda, for example, and the promotion of it to children, there's still a lot of work to be done. It's not anywhere near being eradicated from our society, which is what needs to happen. Okay. Now, I want to talk about something kind of important here, and that is appointments and this woman named Sunny Washington. So Normie Utah broke this story on X. Let me find the post. Give me 1 second. And it's he or she, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but maybe it's I feel like for some reason I think it's a woman, but I'm not sure. No, I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Okay. Let me share this with you. And I want to give you a little bit of background on Sunny. So, okay. So this is Sunny Washington. She used to be a Republican delegate. So in 2022, when I ran for clerk, she was actually a Republican delegate. Now, I don't know how, but she probably comes from a more liberal precinct, because she is as left as you could get. She's literally on the board of Equality Utah. She actively promotes the trans agenda. I couldn't find, she has 2 daughters. I actually couldn't find information on them because I'm wondering if she's transed one or both of them yet. Typically, these trans activists are very committed. They'll destroy their own children's mental and physical health if they think that it will benefit them. So that's a little bit of background about her. Just a couple of things. She's on the board of Equality Utah. She used to head Utah Tech Leads, which is the tech industry trade group in Utah. She knows everybody. She knows I would say probably most of the elected officials in Utah. She knows the tech CEOs. She has very broad knowledge and relationships throughout Utah. Now, right now, she is up for re-nomination to the Salt Lake Community College Board of Trustees. She's currently on it, and she was appointed and confirmed in 2021 by the Senate. And now she's our governor, our allegedly Republican governor, has re-nominated this woke activist to be back on the Salt Lake County Community College Board of Trustees for another 4-year term. Now, until August 20th, you can actually write a comment about her nomination, and then after that period's over, the state Senate will have to vote on her nomination and decide whether to confirm her. So I have a personal interest in making sure that she is not successful in being confirmed again to be on the SLIC Board of Trustees. So let me kind of walk you through this. In 2023, if you've listened to us regularly, you know the story, but Troy Williams, the head of Equality Utah, contacted my employer at the time, Lucid Software, by email. Now, Equality Utah had a relationship with Lucid Software. They had classified Lucid Software as a business equality leader, meaning that they had to meet certain requirements about their diversity, equity, and inclusion in order to be certified by Equality Utah. Troy used that relationship to pressure Lucid to fire me from my job. What he also did, and this is really problematic, is he took screenshots of my social media posts and included them in the email and said that I was transphobic. Although I don't think you can be transphobic because there's no such thing as being transgender. It's fake. It's a mental illness. And our goal should be to make sure that people don't go down that path. All it is a path to destroy your physical and mental health, and you'll never be happy. They have very high suicide rates because of what happens to them and their inability to ever fulfill the vision that they have of themselves in their head. So he screenshotted a bunch of my social media posts. The reason it's a problem is this: you are protected under Utah law. Meaning your employer cannot discriminate against you because of your outside of work expressive activities, right? So your employer can't go trolling through your social media searching for something that they think is offensive, or someone in the woke HR department is upset about, to then come back into your job and discriminate against you. Here, Equality Utah circumvented that by screenshotting my social media and sending it to my employer, even though it was done, my own employer admitted it was all done outside of work hours. So that's a problem. On top of Troy contacting the head of HR, contacting the general counsel, and pressuring them to fire me, Sonny Washington contacted the CEO of Lucid on behalf of Equality Utah and pressured him to fire me from my job. Now, Troy did all of his dirty work in very detailed emails, which I feel they're probably public, to be honest with you, because I think they've been filed. She just sent an email saying, "Hey, Dave Groh," that's the CEO of Lucid, I need to talk to you about something very important. And I don't know if she mentioned my name, saying related to Goud or something like that. Then she had a phone conversation with him, private and secret. This was secret. And she disparaged me to him to pressure him to fire me from my job. Now, we know that Lucid did this to me because they admitted it. And I think that was actually their mistake. I don't think this is the first time that Equality Utah has gone out and pressured employers that they have relationships with to fire employees that they think are a problem. I suspect that this happens more often than we think. And I think it happens on behalf of establishment Republicans and Democrats, both. I want to make the point, both. I think actually that's what happened here. I don't think Troy expected Lucid to tell me that he had contacted them. He was expecting that his communications with Lucid would be secret, and he kept them a secret. They only came out because Lucid admitted it to me when they disciplined me because of the messages that he had sent. So I just want, people need to understand this. This is a nonprofit in Utah that is targeting conservative Utahns. We know of me so far, but like I said, I'm guessing there's others out there, and pressuring their employers to fire them, to silence them. And the reason they did it to me is they couldn't win any sort of battles with me when we would go head to head. I was able to help get bills passed that they opposed because of the fact that I actually understand. I come from within this LGBTQIFUIA plus whatever minus community, whatever that is. I mean, I don't consider myself part of that. I'm just a gay guy, but to the extent I'm part of it, I understand it. I understand the nuances of it, which a lot of other people don't understand, because you don't need to. Honestly, if you're not part of it, you don't need to be a part of it. You don't need to be sitting here educating yourself on all the differences in the little, the different versions of being a tranny, because nobody cares. Even gay guys don't care. But I understood that. And so I was able to help get bills passed that previously would not have passed, or did not pass, or failed, because I had the ability to communicate, to understand the issue, and to counter everything that Equality Utah was saying effectively. Because they could not actually counter, they had to come around and destroy my ability to make a living. It was purposeful, it was disgusting, it was vile, and it was evil. That's what that was. Sonny Washington was an integral part of doing this to me. And it is my view that her confirmation needs to be deep sixed by our Senate, and she needs to be sent packing. She should not be in any sort of government position in Utah ever again, because we don't have a full sense of a full accounting of every single person that she has targeted, that she has used her power and abused it and targeted individuals in our state with whom she or any organization that she runs disagrees with. And I will tell you this, I'm going to submit a comment, I will make it detailed, and I'm going to make it public, and I'm going to ask other people to do the same. I will also say that people should reach out to your senators and ask them to oppose this woke loser who should not be in power anywhere in the state. She is a bad person. She does bad things. If the tech community wants to hang out with her and say how great she is and fund her ventures, that's up to them. It also shows you who they are, because they like that stuff. But for those of us that are actually conservatives and trying to make the state a better place, we have to make sure that people like this are not in power and have any ability to impact us. Because the reality is, if she's at the Slick Board of Trustees and your child goes there, she could search them out and start targeting them there. And you may think that's not going to happen. I guarantee you, like I said, she was perfectly happy to secretly contact my employer to pressure them to fire me. Why do you think that she's not going to abuse her office to secretly target your children when they go to Slick to go to college? She'll do it. And if there's a hearing, I will be there. I will testify against her, and I will bring others to do the same. Defeating this woman is very important, and it would be a good signal to the state that we're not going to tolerate this. And I'll just add one more thing. People should start maybe asking the question, why is a quote-unquote Republican governor renominating a woke, liberal female, affluent liberal female from Equality Utah to the Slick board? Makes you wonder about his relationship with Troy Williams, doesn't it? Like I said to people, he and Troy traveled across the country together. He took Troy all over the place on his Disagree Better campaign. People should maybe ask some questions about what was going on there, and why did he take a gay man on a travel with him like that? So that is the start of this. Like I said, I plan on typing out a comment. I'm going to post it online, and I'm going to ask other people to also comment and oppose her confirmation. And I'll just add this too. She's welcome to call into the show anytime to defend herself. I'm perfectly happy to have this discussion. She won't, because like most leftists in this state, and most of the establishment in the state, she's just a coward. She's one of these kind of passive, aggressive, nasty people that works in the shadows to destroy people's lives, but will not actually surface to do it in public. So that's just a FYI. Oh, okay. Anyway, this is a good time to break before we move on to the next topic. You are listening to the Goud Crowd on KMMU, Main Street Media, Utah. We are live on X, YouTube, Rumble, and our website, kmmu.org. Search KMMU on your favorite platform. Call in live, 385-899-2134. We'll be taking calls for the next hour up until 6:30 p.m. Okay, so yeah, I guess today, no calls after 6:30. Okay, let's see here. What do I have next? Yeah, seriously, if you want to call in, feel free to call in. I'm always happy to hear your comments. Yeah, I will. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I think we're going to have a call in a minute. So let me just show you a couple things here. Hold on. I wanted to a quick comment on this. I thought this was an interesting social media post by Tammy Duckworth. My lonely call screener is waiting. But he has a 7 p.m. meeting tonight. That's why we have to cut it off early in terms of phone calls. So this is Tammy Duckworth, is one of the senators from Illinois. She lost multiple limbs in Iraq during the Iraq War. So she posted this today, and she said, "When I was bleeding to death on a dusty field in Iraq, I didn't care if the troops rescuing me were gay, trans, gay, straight, or anything else. If you're willing to sacrifice for our country and can kill the enemy with lethal precision, you shouldn't be denied the chance to serve." Now, here's a couple things that are missing from this. One, there would not have been trans soldiers in the battle with her. Highly unlikely. And the reason is this: trans soldiers are considered non-deployable until they until they actually fully transition and then are like balanced or in that new gender, in their new chosen gender. So one of the issues with trans soldiers in general was just that. It's that basically you're being allowed to join the army to get medical services and then transition to a new gender, which could take a couple of years before you stabilize. That's where before you're stabilized in the new gender that you've chosen. I mean, of course, you can't actually change your gender, but if you could, until you're stabilized, you were non-deployable. And so you'd have trans soldiers coming in, and 2-3 years, they can't even deploy. They're actually they have to stay stateside while they go through all these treatments, which is very unfair to all the other soldiers who can deploy. And just to give you the comparison, you don't have that issue with gay soldiers. So there's a good number of both gay men and women who serve in the military, but they don't need any special treatment to serve because there's not special medical care because you're gay. There's no need to stabilize in anything because you're gay. You deploy just like a straight person. They're basically the same. They just are attracted to different sexes, right? So there's no actual real difference between the two. Compare that to the trans soldier who comes in, needs all of this treatment, takes 2 to 3 years to stabilize in the new gender, is always going to be at high risk of suicide because actually even those who transition have high rates of suicide. And a lot of times, and I'll just tell you what it is, it's that they transition and then they can't actually feel sexual pleasure. So, people sometimes, I would say I've had discussions with these liberal white women who are big promoters of the trans agenda, and they'll just blow that off like it's not a big deal. But for a lot of these people, it actually is a big deal. It takes away a big part of being an adult, is being able to have that type of pleasure. And then that's what helps you develop a very close relationship with somebody that you couldn't otherwise develop. And so if you're not able to do that anymore because you transition, so let's say you went from a man to a woman, they surgically changed all of your junk and now it's not operational anymore, that probably will have an impact on you. And so anyway, but they tend to be higher, more prone to suicide. So even once they are fully stabilized in the new gender, you still have people that are at high risk of suicide. I don't even know why you would have them deploy. But to the point here, they're not out there. It's very unlikely that you would have a trans soldier on the battlefield because most of them are typically non-deployable. That's just the reality of it. And it's why they shouldn't be allowed to serve. They have a mental illness. Go treat your mental illness. And the way to treat it is to become comfortable in your birth sex so that you don't need to transition. That's it. There's no other treatment for that. So, and all treatment, let me say, should be aimed at making people comfortable in their birth sex. That's it. Okay. Then I wanted to do one other thing before our call, and it is this. I want to talk about the flag. It's interesting, the flag issue just won't go away as an issue, right? Because I think And I want to add, I'm not saying that it needs to go away. I'm just saying it's not going away. It's an observation, not a judgment. I thought this post was kind of clever, though. I just want to say. So, Natalie, I think that the flag came back up. Part of it, I know why it came up. Senator McKay, who's my senator, is the one that sponsored the bill to change it. And I think he likes to troll people online. I've noticed this. And so I think I saw he posted something about the flag a few days ago. Oh, Tracy's online. Oh, you can bring Tracy in. And so Natalie actually posted about this, so Natalie Klein, and she said, radicals were able to get Dan McKay to champion their woke flag agenda in Utah, creating a quote-unquote Newtah. I kind of thought that was clever. In most cities and states, they resort to guerrilla tactics to force change, but Dan McKay, believing this would really change Utah, rolled out the red and rainbow carpet for them. Oh, man. Hopefully Tracy will have there's that really great video of a boy named Sue Robbins, unfurling the new trans Utah flag. That's one of my favorites. I will say this. I think the reason the flag was changed was a lot of Utah politicians actually bow to the latest thing. Call it the spirit of the age, whatever it is. But they tend to, whatever it is, they tend to want to appease people that hate them. And so I think that's what this is an example of. Are you there, Tracy?
I'm here. How are you, Goud?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I was calling it about the flag post too. That's interesting. You think that it's to appease some people. I honestly think it's an ego thing. I think they want their, I changed the state flag, I ran that bill, or I think it's an ego thing. But you're right. The issue's never going to go away because people are still ticked about it and they still want it back. I honestly think they did it to market for these billion-dollar stadiums, taxpayer funded. So why not, cause us to do the logo for it and, we pay for the marketing, pay for everything. These people are getting their businesses, all their stuff paid for. And now people say, oh, you could do the transgender flag to the old flag too. No, you couldn't. It was ugly if you would have done that to it. That's why no one ever did it.
It's true. It's true.
It's true. It's ugly. If you rainbow that and then put the eagle on it, it's ugly. And so no one would ever do that. And that's their excuse. Well, you could do it in the other one. No, you couldn't. It wouldn't have sold. And because it's too American, and if you put that crap on there, and now I just call it Dan's pedo flag because that's all I see in that stupid new flag is they just market it as a pedo flag. It's disgusting.
Okay, so I'm wondering, so I thought when they initially came out with this new flag thing, I was newer living in Utah, and I remember just being like, whatever, I don't care. And then I went, before they actually changed, or after they changed it, I went to a town hall. And let me just add, I didn't have any influence on this either way. But then I went to a town hall, I think you were there, where Dan was there and Candace Perucci, and they talked about the history of the flag. And the parts I remember, and I may not be remembering exactly right, is that the original flag was, it was like the state seal on the blue background. I think the state seal was created in a bar by a Canadian or something like that. And then they put a bunch of American flags on there because the Utahns at the time were trying to get the federal government to accept them and let them become a state, right? And I was like, well, that is really fascinating. It's a struggle, right? They've continued their pioneer struggle of trying to get acceptance, and it came even when they're trying to become a state, and then after, even when they're trying to have a flag, everything about it is like they're trying to gain this acceptance. It's a great story, and then they changed the flag, and I'm like, oh, you just cut off all that history with with your own pioneer ancestors. I guess maybe can you talk about the historical link of the flag to Utah's history?
Yeah, they erased it. I mean, that's pure Marxism when you want to erase the past. And that's what they did in order to appease a lobbyist, so they could get their marketing symbols. And if you ever go back and look at the old flag, it is the most beautiful flag of all the flags in the United States, in my opinion. I mean, the shield of it symbols like protecting, and defend, and to protect and defend your liberties. Like every symbol in that was beautiful, and they turned around and just mocked it. And a lot of people don't understand. They act like they don't want any symbols to show that they call it federalism or whatever, or be a part of it. We're supposed to be a part of a union. And when back in the days, our founders wanted us to never forget that, because divided we fall. And so they never wanted us to be different. They wanted us to be a union. And everybody's like, oh, it's the same thing on every one of them. Well, it was supposed to be that way, because it's supposed to show a union, that we are unified as a nation. And if you go in and you conquer one state, or if you get two states battling, you're gonna conquer a nation. And so then to go after it like that, well, it looks like everyone else. Well, we're part of a union. You dingbat. That's what we're supposed to have, the same thing.
That's interesting. I also think it's interesting. There seemed to be a general push to change state flags across the country. And I don't know if you saw, but Minnesota also changed their state flag. And when they changed it, it actually looks like a Somali flag now.
Yeah. And it's gone across. It has been a movement across the nation. And there was one, I don't know which state it was, but their legislature actually let the people vote, and they voted no. And that's why they didn't want us to vote, is because we would have voted no. So they were going to take that away from us. It's definitely a power from the top down here in Utah, not where it's supposed to be from the people, from the bottom up. And that's how they run this government here. And people are never going to let that flag go, because, I mean, like my grandmother was a daughter of the pioneer. Like she helped create, get to sew the flags and stuff like that. So you've got heritage in here. And Dan moved here. He has no connection here. He doesn't have any roots here. So it doesn't matter to him. He's okay to change that stuff, to appease his lobbyist friends that are donating to his campaign. So it's a disappointing, and I love it that it's not dying. I know you said that today that it just won't go away. And I know you didn't mean that bad, but it's never going to go away.
No, yeah, totally. I think it's interesting because, because I thought there's a lot of people they'll move on, right? You always have that in a population, and I think probably your people that are less activist have already moved on from it into the latest issue. But there are a lot of people that are still very worked up about the change in the flag. And to your point, it does not seem like they will stop being concerned about it. And let me just, one other thing I was going to add, though, is I think at the time this was going on, you also had kind of didn't they change the name of Dixie State to Utah Tech? Right? And then they had that compact on diversity, equity, and inclusion that they did. And that's what I was talking about when I mean, I think a lot of our elected officials are very into appeasing people that hate them. So they're out, like the leftists hate you. They're never going to like you either. So I don't know why you would even bother trying to appease them, but they will do all sorts of things to see like, oh, this leftist group hates me. Let me see if I change the name of Dixie State to Utah Tech, maybe that'll make them feel better. And I was like, no, they still hate you. Nothing ever changes. You change the flag, they still hate you. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Do you have any?
Now you're just making the more conservative people hate you too.
Yeah, exactly. You're adding to your enemies list.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on
that's
maybe?
all I had.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for calling in. We appreciate it.
No, what did you say?
Oh, I was just saying, do you have any thoughts on the way forward in terms of dealing with these different types of changes that have happened in the state? What do you think the solution is?
Well, as far as the flag goes, the only way they move forward is they put it to a vote. And as far as the Spencer Cox cheat is, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think anybody will be happy until he's sitting in jail, him and Deidre, because what they did was election fraud, and you can't deny it. These issues, they're never going to move forward because they don't do anything to fix it. They just say, oh, move on. It'll be okay. You need to move on. That's what they keep saying, move on, move on. Well, after a while, people have had it. Like I had a guy call from down south today and asked me about initiatives and referendums because we've started that lawsuit. And he wanted to know how he could help because he tried to refer a land change and they didn't make it. He goes, they've made it impossible. I go, oh, it's an illusion. You'll never, ever make it unless you have $1.2 million just to hire people out and work all day. And he said he even tried that, and they run him out of grocery stores, and like Walmart. And that's what happened with the flag. Dan would call Walmart and say, they're being mean out there. And so they kick us out of the parking lot. And so they've essentially taken the town square away because they've built it out and made it all into these private grocery centers, which in California, there's already been a United States Supreme Court case that says you can't do that, that if you invite the public to your place of business, you can't restrict their speech. And so
interesting.
It's been really bad. Yeah, it was the same. It was a case about a group of young, college students. They were fighting the United Nations. Imagine that, Zionism. Still going on. We're still fighting it.
Yeah.
But
wild.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So the only way they fix these things is if they start listening to people, and I just don't see that happening until a couple people start going to jail or get sued.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Bye, guys.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I think this flag issue is fascinating. Mr. Producer says all of my Minnesota family members call it Somali soda. I know it's scary to me. I'll just say this: when you bring in too many immigrants from any country, I think you actually start to degrade American culture and kind of like our common things that thread us all together. And one example of that is corruption. So a lot of third world countries, they're like that because the cultures have a very high tolerance for corruption. I'll just add, I think we're actually very corrupt in the US. It's become more obvious lately, but we at least had the veneer of not being corrupt. But if you go to places like India, for example, Somalia, China, any third world country really, corruption will be extremely high, and there's a very high tolerance for it. So people in those countries actually are very accepting that is just how things are. You have to go pay an extra 50 rupees for a driver's license, or your roads are not going to be built properly because the inspector got paid off by the construction company. Or it could be a multitude of all sorts of different things. Well, if you go to areas with very high percentages of immigrants, you'll, especially from these third world countries, you'll actually see a much higher incidence of all sorts of fraud going on. So recently I saw something talking about how a very high percentage of Somali women are single mothers and they're collecting government assistance. Well, someone actually posted and said that's not actually true. They're gaming the system. They are married and they have husbands, but they're not doing it legally and registering it. Instead, they're doing it religiously, and then they're able to collect government benefits like food stamps and things like that. And they're from Somalia, so like when they come here as refugees, they actually get a lifetime of welfare benefits. And so this is actually, that's how we, for whatever reason, I mean, I kind of think if you immigrate here and you're not able to make it on your own, you should leave. We actually shouldn't offer any public assistance for any immigrants at all. Like the answer is get out, because you're coming here to try to make it. If you're incapable of making it, it's not my responsibility as an American to now subsidize your lifestyle. You should go right back where you came from and figure it out. But that's an example of the type of fraud you get when you bring in tons of people from corrupt countries. If you go down to the Miami area, you have very high incidence of Medicaid fraud by doctors there who tend to be of Hispanic descent. And you'll see this throughout the country in different places by different ethnic groups. And that's a problem. And that generally is, it's my view that we should have a complete immigration moratorium for at least 50 years. We have way too many immigrants who came in floods. And you see it when you go into any major city in America, they don't even look American anymore. You hardly hear people speaking with American accents. I was at the airport today. Multiple airline employees have foreign accents. I just, like if I live in America, I am an American. I want things run by Americans. And I'm sure like we can have some immigration, but at this point, I think we just have way too much of it. We need to deport every single illegal alien. I mean, everyone. I don't care when you came, or you need to get out. You need to leave. You've used us long enough. Time for you to go. And then we need to do a moratorium on all immigration, because all it is doing is it is undermining our common values, our common culture, and it's making it so that the country is getting very disjointed. And because the flood is so big, the immigrants who are coming in now are not assimilating. I've seen that with Indians that have immigrated more recently. If you talk to people like my parents, they immigrated in '74, and they have a lot of friends that immigrated in that time period. When they talk about coming here and having children and raising them, they will talk about how their goal was for their kids to be assimilated, to be Americans. And if you go among all the Indian American kids that I grew up with, they're all assimilated. You won't hear any of them say, oh, I really want to go to India. I want to move to India, or I want all the Indians to come here. None of that. We're like done. The connection is just not there. And so, but now you see more recent Indians, and all they talk about is like, oh, I need to bring my whole family over here. Like every extended cousin in every single village needs to come on an H-1B visa to come and take an American job, be able to live here. And we're destroying our country. That is the end result of all this. We're going to destroy our country. So, Mr. Producer says, and he's correct, deportation will solve the housing crisis. Imagine 10 million homes freed up, let alone overcrowding in schools and hospitals. That is correct. Mass deportations actually solve every problem, or at least they make it better. Your overcrowded schools will be uncrowded. Housing will open up, because it's actually, we have 40 to 50 million illegal immigrants in the U.S. It's not 11 million or whatever that lie is that they tell. 40 to 50 million. You get rid of them, most problems are solved. Government spending will drop because they are getting free benefits like food stamps, Medicaid, and stuff like that. It's just all over the place. So we need to do it. Again, and jobs too. In fact, they're suppressing wages across the board. So, okay, let me kind of quickly prep you here. We have Aaron Davidson's going to come on and talk about FastCast. So let me see if I can pull this up for you. Okay, so I think I want to say it was 2023. So Aaron Davidson is the Utah County Clerk. And I will say, I think he's the best clerk we have in the state. He's really the only kind of innovative clerk there is. Like I said, hold on, sorry, 1 second here. I'll text him. Like I said, with Lanny Chapman is like a Soros lackey. She's a Democrat. She's fully funded by George Soros, totally trying to undermine our election system. Aaron Davidson's the opposite. He's a conservative Republican, actually trying to make our system better, more secure, and he found a way to do it through the mail system. It's a program called FastCast. And the idea behind FastCast, and I'll let him talk about it in more detail, is that you could take the mail ballot that you got, fill it out at home, and then take it in person, show your ID, and submit the ballot. And then what that did is it made it so that they no longer had to have signature verification, because typically for a mail ballot, they do signature, like you sign the outside envelope, you sign the envelope that you return to your clerk. So I actually have my ballot here. Let's see. For those who don't know, I'll show you if in case you don't know what this looks like. So this is what it comes in. So this is your, let's see, can you see it? Trying to see. It looks clear to me. Is it too close? Oh, okay, there you go. So that's my ballot. We, of course, for some reason, Utahns think mail voting is secure. I don't know why. Lots of propaganda. And then this is the return envelope. So on the return envelope, there's a spot here that you stick your ballot in here after you fill it out, and then you sign it here. You seal the envelope. In Salt Lake County, they have this privacy thing over it. So they'll tear off this privacy thing. I vote in person, so I'm just going to do this because you tear it off, and they'll have an employee do that. And then your signature will be exposed. And then they will run this through a machine. It's called the, God, I can't remember the name of the machine. But, all right, they'll run this through the machine. I don't know why that stopped sharing. I don't know. Okay, so then they'll run it through the machine. The machine will try to electronically match your signature to one of the signatures they have on file. They have multiple signatures on file. If it's not able to do that, you want to see my ballot? I haven't filled out my ballot. I only vote in person. Just so everybody knows, I vote in person. I refuse to turn in a mail ballot. The only time I've ever done it is when I have been deployed overseas, and I find it to be the most unsatisfying process you could come up with to vote. I don't like it. I don't think it's secure. I don't want a postal service person touching my ballot. I've seen my postwoman here. She's horrible at her job. And okay. So let me see how close is that better? Mr. Producer said he couldn't see it. So this is where you would sign it. See, and then you close it. And like I said, there used to be a privacy thing here. Then I tore it off, and now it's exposed. They put it through that machine to do the initial electronic match. If it doesn't match, then they have someone do a manual check, and they'll check your signature against one of the many that they have on file. They're constantly updating your signature file. And then if they get a match, then they'll open your envelope, and they do it with a machine. So the machine, I think they do it maybe upside down, and the machine will actually tear this open. And then it'll have these suction cups that open the envelope, and a person will actually pull the ballot out of it. And then they'll stack them up to be then scanned. And then the scanner will, so this is what your ballot looks. The scanner will then, let's see what I have here. I'm very confused. So this is our ballot. Let's see if you can see it. I'm gonna have to scan this. So that's the ballot. And then here's the other side. This is for Riverton. So we have a mayor's race, and I guess we have a primary, which is confusing to me because it's a nonpartisan race. So I'm not sure why we have a primary. But anyway, we have a primary. Then they take that ballot, they scan it. The tabulator tabulates the votes. If it cannot read what you wrote on your ballot, so if you didn't fill it in enough, you filled it in too much, you crossed something out. If you used a red pen, it'll push the ballot into a separate section, to be adjudicated. And that means that two employees at the clerk's office will watch it, and they will try to determine your intent when you, oh, thanks. Sorry, Mr. Prentice just said you could see it at that time. They try to discern your intent from looking at your ballot in terms of how you intended to vote. Now, my view is adjudication during that process, there's a risk that they could change your vote, either intentionally or unintentionally, but it opens up that possibility. So that's actually a security risk. That's one of them. Another one is when they do duplication. That's another security risk. And another one is when they do signature verification, because they have to make settings on their machines in terms of how strict it will be in terms of, like, for your signature to match the one on the envelope to one on the one that is in their files of multiple signatures that they have for you. If they put a high setting, then it's more likely it will be rejected. If they lower the settings, it's less likely, or lower the toughness, it's less likely that it'll be rejected. And so a clerk who's a Democrat, I think Democrats are more likely to do this because they actually actively want to cheat. That's how they win elections, for the most part. And so they will pass through more signatures than what should be passed through. And in fact, the lieutenant governor's office in Utah actually pressures clerks to lower the standards and pass through more signatures, which should raise the question, why is a Republican lieutenant governor trying to get more signatures passed through if they don't match? You should ask yourself that question. The other question you should ask yourself if you're at home is, how many times do you sign stuff and it all looks the same? Now, if you're older, so, if you're like senior citizen, I think it's more likely that your signatures probably are closer every time you do it. But have you looked at your grandkids' signatures? You should. If you haven't, you should, because I guarantee you that they don't look the same most of the time that they sign it, if they even really have a signature. Because I think actually, as you get younger and younger, the quote unquote signatures are getting more and more generic because, for example, they don't teach cursive anymore. So how do you do a signature if you don't even know cursive? You just print your name? Because that's easy for someone to illegally just like replicate. Okay, but anyway, so that's a setup. He tried to get this, he was trying to do this fast cast program that was going to circumvent the entire signature verification process. It kind of takes the best of both worlds here. You get your ballot in the mail, and then you go turn it in person after showing your photo ID. So for a lot of people argue that the reason they like mail voting is because they can sit in their house, stare at their ballot, and then they can go, oh, okay, look at all these things. I can do all this research. I'll tell you, like, I can't tell you how many people I've seen sitting at the ballot drop box filling out their ballot. So I don't know if the story is true, that they're actually, people need the time. But if you need the time, you can do it, and then you could turn it in person and show your ID. Because my view is, if you don't show your ID, we should not count your vote. And the only way to show your ID is to show picture ID. An American one as well. So anyway, we'll talk more about that with Aaron when he comes on. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't have any text messages that say anything like you can't make it through. Okay. Let me see here while we wait for him. Oh, let me tell you, this one's crazy. So I saw this video, and I think it's supposed to, it's like, okay, kind of, let me say, if you only see the video on the left, it's this gay couple with, they have a surrogate child. This is the latest thing. For some reason, I don't know where people are getting all this money to do this, but there's a very heavy push for gay couples to have surrogate children, right? And look, I am not opposed. I know some people are opposed to gays having kids. Fine. I am not opposed to adoption for gay couples that live like straight couples, meaning I don't think you should have an open relationship. I don't think that you should, I think you should actually live like a more traditional heterosexual couple, meaning you are exclusive with each other, you are, faithful, You're focused on family. You're not partying. You're not doing drugs. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're just, like a boring heterosexual couple. Don't mean that in a bad way, but that's what I think kids need. It's just boring parents. So then it turns out that, so at first I just saw this video on the left and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, whatever. And I think that there's the videos each month, they have like a cupcake with a little kid and they blow out the cupcake, whatever. They start at month 1, I think. Well, it turns out that the guy on the right was convicted of sexual abuse of children. So, and I guess in Pennsylvania, he had this on his record, but so he would not be able to adopt a child. Makes sense. Totally. Yeah, obviously that makes sense to me. But they can circumvent that restriction by getting a surrogate instead, which is what they did here. Now, I went and I looked because I was curious, what was he convicted of doing, right? Because it kind of raises the question, there's a lot of different things you could be convicted of to have abuse of a child. It doesn't tell you much. So I found an article about it, and here's what it was. Of course. Okay, so he's in Pennsylvania. He was a teacher. He was 30 years old at the time. This happened in 2016, so almost 10 years ago. And he engaged in numerous sexually explicit solicitations and conversations with a 16-year-old chemistry student through text messaging. Now, I'll add, they don't actually specify the sex of the student in the articles, so I'm assuming it was a male because he's gay. So anyway, he was doing this with a kid. When he started being investigated, they suspended him from his position, and then he resigned. But according to the DA's office, Mitchell solicited the victim to send him nude photographs. He also told the victim he wanted to watch the victim masturbate and sent the victim approximately 20 nude photographs of himself. The victim then sent Mitchell 10 nude photographs and 1 sexually explicit video of the victim. This is a 16-year-old kid. Officials did a search warrant of Mitchell's electronic devices and phone records, revealed over 12,000 text messages between him and the victim. 12,000 text messages between him and the victim. That's crazy. These conversations lasted from May 2013 until December 2014. Mitchell told the victim to delete their conversations, according to officials. So not only is he doing something completely gross, illegal, he's also encouraging his victim to delete the evidence. Despite this attempt to hide the crime, police were able to recover text messages that Mitchell sent to the victim in June 2013, suggesting that the victim performed oral sex after the victim graduated from high school. Police also recovered hundreds of other sexually explicit video of the victim to Mitchell's laptop computer. Hundreds of other sexually explicit videos. Mitchell was arrested for unlawful contact with a minor, child pornography, endangering welfare of children, and corruption of minor on February 3rd. His bail is set at $50,000 and unsecured. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for 9 a.m. on March 9th. Okay. This is really disturbing stuff, and I have to say, I don't think this guy should have a kid. That's just me. What do you do? I don't even know what you do with this, right? It's hard because, again, he would not have been able to adopt a child, but there's no way to stop them from using a surrogate instead. And I guess I don't know. Do people think this is a loophole that needs to be resolved, or do we take care of this somehow? I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to this. Like I said, this is disturbing. People need to watch this kid. This is really disturbing. Okay, I think we have Aaron. So I'm going to move on from that topic because I'm now really kind of like this. Okay, let me get my thing back up. All right, we have Aaron. Are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here finally. Sorry for being a little late.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for coming on.
No, I never know what's going to happen when we're in the election cycle. And so I was just dealing with some ballot center stuff.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot. Yeah, thank you for coming on. I know it's very busy during the election, especially when the elections are active like it is now. Do you want to? Will you start by telling everybody about yourself? Not everybody that listens may know who you are. So if you could talk about Aaron Davidson, what you do, who you are.
Okay, so I'm the Utah County Clerk. I ran in 2022 and started my term in 2023. So I've been in office for about little over 2.5 years now, and running through my third election cycle. So I've got a background. My background is I've got 2 master's degrees. I've got a master's in accounting and my MBA, and I've done quite a few different things since I graduated.
Okay.
I worked for Pricewaterhouse as a management consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Started my own database consulting company, sold that. Started a custom home building company, sold that. Started a chocolate company, sold that. Done some real estate. I've kind of done a lot of business stuff and dealing with the business end of it and data relations. And I tell you, the thing that I learned the most was in my accounting degree. I had an emphasis in database information systems. That's what it was called.
Okay.
Emphasis in information systems, and that has helped me tremendously. I don't know how the other clerks manage it without having that background.
Yeah, just so people listening understand, I've spoken with Aaron about various election issues and been highly impressed with his grasp of details, his grasp of systems, because like a lot of times you're dealing with how systems work when you're talking about the election system, how various systems work within it, and also his ability to explain it to people who are not part of it in a way that's very digestible and understandable. So just kudos to you, Aaron. Like I think a lot of voters that I talk to really appreciate like your ability to communicate issues to them in a way that they can understand.
Yeah, so I call myself kind of a data nerd, and some of my staff gets frustrated with me because I ask for data that's never been asked of them before,
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of look at me strange. But after I tell them why I want it and some of the stuff I've been able to analyze and come up with, they finally start to realize, oh, that's what he's doing. It's been and I'm still kind of learning some different things about elections. I had no idea kind of what I was getting into, and it's more complex than I had ever imagined.
Yeah.
The elections, especially with the by-mail balloting, it's so complex for a big county. Yeah, I could just go on and on about that, but
yeah,
I'm a little late because I was dealing with 2 new classifications. So when we run it through the Agilis machine, which is our envelope sorter,
yeah,
I've come up with as of last year, there's 98 different classifications how a ballot can be classified when it goes through the sorting machine.
okay.
And I came across 2 new ones today. And so we were trying, I was talking to my ballot center, how are we going to classify these 2 new classifications to match the reconciliation that the state wants us to do.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I was working through.
Okay. Well, today I think I want to talk about the FastCast voting program or voting system you had, because news broke last week that it will not be available for the municipal elections. Talk about FastCast voting and what it was.
So FastCast voting, a lot of people, they like the convenience of by mail. They like receiving their ballot in the mail so they can stay at home and kind of work through the different races at home and fill their ballot out. but they don't they want to vote in person to show their ID, but they don't want to go to the polling locations because they don't want to wait in line to get their ballot printed and then go into, you have to wait for the polling booth and fill it out and then turn it in. So FastCast, they can just fill their ballot at home, stick it in their envelope and bring it to us at a polling location, show their ID, sign the poll pad and deposit their ballot. And we're going to count their ballot because they verified who they are in person rather than us having to do signature verification or now the new 4-digit verification.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well. The first one was, it was a trial with like 2 locations and we didn't have a problem. So we implemented it to every location in last year's primary. And we did have an issue. There was one polling location that just didn't kind of get the idea of what we were trying to do, and they didn't put the tabulator in the right place. They didn't check them in properly. And they just had some issues. And 19 ballots were put in the machine, in the tabulator, that they didn't go through a full check-in process.
Okay.
And it wasn't anything that the voter did wrong. It was something that the poll worker did wrong. They didn't fully check the person in.
Okay.
And their statement was they were afraid to do it all the way because it wasn't going to print a ballot out. And so they were afraid to hit the enter button for the check-in, which they absolutely should have. And so I got condemned in the media quite heavily for that, saying that we processed 19 ballots, 19 more ballots than there were check-ins, which did happen, but it was a problem with the poll worker, not the process itself.
Okay.
So we changed our processes. We changed our processes for the general and didn't have a problem at all.
Oh.
So we fixed it. And so since we fixed it, I didn't think that there was going to be an issue for this election. But HB 300 kind of changed some things, and the state says that it made FastCast non-compliant with code.
Okay.
And I went through the code, and we made some minor changes to how we were going to do it. But the state said that I responded too late with my changes, that they didn't have time to go through it and verify that it complied with state statutes.
Oh, okay.
Even though I submitted a month ahead of time.
Well,
I submitted it ahead of time, but they didn't want to look at it.
Okay. Well, what's an example of a change that had to be made to comply with HB 300?
Well, quite frankly, I don't think there is one. I think the state's just saying that. But the thing we did change, though, is in HB 300, we had to just redesign our ballot envelope to have this a tab that's going to cover the voter's information, their signature and 4 digits that they're going to put on their ballot, and their email and phone number. So we had to put that on there. And so our process was when the person came to turn in their ballot, we were going to have them remove the tab and verify that they signed it and put their 4 digits on the envelope.
Okay.
Everything else is pretty much the same.
Okay.
But the state would consider that change. And they just said that it wasn't compliant, but never gave me any code as to why they were saying it wasn't compliant. They just said it wasn't compliant. So I struggled with it, but it just came to the point where they were threatening me with, I don't know, saying I was doing something illegal and threatening me the same as Cache County kind of got taken to the cleaners by them. And so I just didn't want to risk having to fight it legally. And I caved.
Yeah.
And just fight for it for the general.
Oh, okay. So So it sounds like you. First of all, that I just want to make one thing clear. I think that privacy tab that you're talking about, Salt Lake County already does that, right? On the envelope.
Yeah, they do, and several other counties did. Yeah. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. But
yeah, I'm just showing people what it looks like because I have my ballot here, and I had just shown them this before you came on that they have this privacy tab. You sign underneath it, and then they tear off the privacy tab to expose your signature. So it just sounds like you guys were going to do the same thing. And then, go ahead.
It's almost too bad because it's like if everybody would just use the drop boxes or vote in person, that tab is meaningless for the drop boxes. It's only those that come back to the U.S. mail.
Right. Right.
Because you don't have to hide it from us because we're the ones that have to look at it. So if it's in the drop box,
right. That makes sense.
It just causes to pull that tab off.
Okay. So in terms of so what I'm getting from you is if the Lieutenant Governor's office does not approve of it, there is a risk that they'll come back, say that the process is illegal, or start I'll use ginning up for lack of a better word, but ginning up a controversy to then undermine your office. So it's important. I guess it's important before you implement a program like this that they actually have some sort of buy-in to it. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And did they approve the first iteration of FastCast?
Yeah. I mean, they approved the first iteration. We found that there was a problem with it, so we changed it for the general. And in the general, we had no issues. But if you read the news, they keep pointing back to the primary, but never mentioned that there were 19 ballots cast. But never point back to the general that there were no problems. And they keep having this problem with 19 extra ballots, but for some reason they don't take into consideration that there were 20,000 ballots that very well could have been from valid voters that were never counted because they were thrown out because of bad signature verification process.
Yes, I saw your post on that. I'll actually post it. Hold on, so people can see it. Oh, I thought I was going to post it. Give me 1 second here. I saw your post. That's what I was like. I'll put up in a minute. The other thing I was going to ask, how many people used FastCast in the 2024 general election?
In the 2024 election, I think I had that. Ask me another question. I'll look it up in the meantime.
Okay.
I think it was in the 2,000 range.
Well, in terms of your ability to process ballots, if more people use FastCast, will that speed up your office's ability to process ballots and have results completed?
It speeds it up tremendously. We don't have to do any signature verification, no 4-digit verification now. We just have to open up the ballot and count it.
Yeah. So it's essentially it turns into the equivalent of someone coming in and voting in person.
Yes.
I put up your. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, voting in person. Well, voting in person, we actually we're going back to processing those on site with the DS200. So it's even easier if they vote in person. It's a little bit more work if they do FastCast. But on our end, but on the voters' end, they don't have to fill it out again. They've already filled it out. They just have to turn it in.
Okay. What is the DS200 system?
So I'm sorry, I did find it. So FastCast in general, there were 4,152 voters that used FastCast.
Okay.
And in the primary last year, there were 938.
All right, so it increased by like 400% between the primary and the general election.
Yeah, but I mean, there were more people that participated in the general election than participated in the primary.
Correct. Were you seeing, from voters themselves, did they like the FastCast system?
Yeah, everyone I talked to that used it, they said they loved it. I mean, they just bring their ballot in the envelope, they show their ID, sign the poll pad, and they're done.
Yeah.
And they just like the fact that they have to show their ID. It's that segment of the population that wants to show their ID but doesn't want to wait in line.
Okay. And I want to circle back to one quick point. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, the lieutenant governor's office tried to scare people a little bit by saying it's going to increase the lines and wait time at the polling locations.
Mm-hmm.
But that was not the case at all, because we have two separate lines. There's the line for regular in-person voters, and there's a line for the FastCast, just like at Disneyland. It's really a FastCast line. If you have your ballot already filled out, you just walk to the FastCast line, show your ID, sign the poll pad, and you're done. And there was never a line of more than 10 people during the general election for the FastCast line. They were in and out within minutes. Single-digit minutes. Less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
Usually nothing. I mean, the average, it was just, one or two people, and they were in and out.
Okay. Then I wanted to circle back to the 19 ballots in that primary election, just so we're all clear on this. You didn't actually have 19 extra ballots that were counted, right? It just sounds like it was a clerical error. And I thought were you able to reconcile everything after the issue was raised?
So the way that it works is when you show up and you sign the poll pad,
mm-hmm.
It gives you credit that you voted. It doesn't say who you voted for, just that you voted.
Right.
And then once you're done, you take that ballot and process the ballot. So the check-in process, they checked them in, they made sure that they were a valid voter,
mm-hmm.
but they didn't enter on that poll pad to confirm that they showed up in person. But they still cast their ballot because they already had their ballot with them.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to check in at the poll pad and then deposit their ballot. But the check-in process was not completed by the poll worker, but they still cast their ballot.
Okay.
So they reconciled. So the number of ballots was 19 more than the check-ins. So it was a legitimate voter, and they went through the process, and we did count their ballot. But the VISTA system, which is the voter information system that the state uses, didn't get record that they showed up because the poll worker didn't hit the enter button.
Got it. That totally makes sense.
The poll worker, they were afraid that, the poll worker, in the past, every time you hit the enter, it prints a ballot out. And they were afraid that if they hit the enter button, it would print a new ballot out. But we programmed those poll pads to do the FastCast check-in to not print the ballot.
Okay.
And that bit of training and information didn't quite click with that poll worker.
Got it.
So it was, there weren't fraudulent ballots cast, or it was just a training error or just not fully understanding it with that poll worker, and so it created a controversy.
Okay.
We were our training was a lot more explicit during the general election, and we did change the process a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we did problem in the general.
Very cool. Just 1 second. Okay, so just I'm at time on this segment. How can voters vote in this municipal primary election?
So they can still do most of the ways. They can return it through the drop box. They can vote in person, or they can. I don't even want to say it. They can mail it in. In person, you can. In the in-person, you can bring it either early the week before to the county, here at the county offices for early voting and vote in person, or you can vote in person at the 10 voting locations that we're going to have this election.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. I'm at time. Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
If they want to follow me, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook mainly. I can't remember my Instagram. Just look up Aaron Davidson and try and find it. I think it's Aaron D518, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Maybe I should memorize that. Maybe.
And he's also on X at AR Davidson.
Is that what it is? It's AR Davidson. Okay.
Yeah. On X. Okay. Well, Aaron, my call screener has to go, so I think my call is cut off. Thank you for coming on. We'll have you back soon. So thank you. Okay. Well, I hope that was helpful to everybody. Mr. Call Screener has to leave us, so he will be taking off. I know I have one more call, so I'm just going to but I'll tell her to call either my line or just maybe she can video in. So call screener. Screener left. Just 1 second to those of you listening. I'm still here. Send you a link to video, or you can call my phone. So I'm going to have my friend Brandy call in today. We were going to talk about, we have this kind of, oh, she said she's on hold. I don't know how she's on hold. Okay, hold on. Let me get my friend here. Hold on. I can, here. I'm going to invite her. I'm going to copy it. Because we had this whole thing about multicultural night, and I don't know if people know about this. I always find this fascinating. Okay, hold on. Just call my phone. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna get her on my phone line, and then we will talk about this. But let me just grab the Twitter thing. Hello.
Goud, I have Monica on. You can talk to her for a couple of minutes.
Oh, we have. Okay, Brandy, let me call you back in a minute. Okay. Okay. Bye. Yeah. Okay. You can put Monica through.
She's here. Go ahead, Monica. Yeah. Say hello.
Hey, Goud.
Hey, how are you, Monica?
Good. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So you have, before the call screener leaves and takes our phone with him, you have a couple minutes. What do you want to talk about today?
You tell me. I think you had some questions about the flag stuff.
Yeah, you've been part of this whole back and forth. Tracy came and talked about it a little bit, but talk about maybe your thoughts on the new flag. I'll tell you, from my personal perspective, what I find interesting is that it's not going away as an issue. people, and I think part of it is Dan McKay because he likes to stir the pot. I think everybody knows that. But I also think that people genuinely are, they still are upset about it, and it's not going away. So tell us your thoughts on the flag, and that the staying power of it is an issue.
I love that it has staying power. I think it should, because I think the issues at hand are a lot deeper than, oh, it's just a design on a piece of cloth. Like, I don't think people understand maybe fully the the people who get it, but I think the general public might not be aware of the implications of what this redesign means in terms of a cultural shift and signifying that shift within Utah. And that's not a small thing. That's a big thing. This is a transformative agenda that we're seeing that the flag is representing. So it's great. I think we need to just beat that drum even harder. It shouldn't go away. That's something where every time Dan McKay tries to, pat himself on the back for it, people should be, I think mocking him, to be honest. I think he was very foolish, but he's run a lot of very foolish bills. So this is on par for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. He's actually my senator, and I remember once being in a text group or something where I said something about something he had done, and the response was, it was from a conservative activist, I would say. And she said, Goud, but he runs pro-life bills. And I was like, okay, but I feel like any Republican that you get into office, it's pretty easy to find a pro-life Republican. But he's done so many other bills that have been damaging, like the SB 54, the flag bill, the stadium bill for Ryan Smith, the hockey one, that those outweigh those pro-life bills he's done, because you could have had another Republican in that seat that would have run those exact same bills. And so I don't understand why we're not more, let's find a better Republican.
No, I agree with you. I feel like those pro-life bills are his beard bills. I think he uses them as cover. The rest of his, the things he advances, he was a co-sponsor on HB 257, which, allowed the men in the women's restrooms, if I remember correctly. I think that was Dan McKay. At any rate, he was making public statements about HB 257 and defending it. So I kind of feel like, I don't know. I don't know what personally motivates him to do this kind of stuff. I feel like it's bad for Utah, though, and it tears away at everything that it's, that people here, our grandparents, our parents have helped to build in terms of, the legacy, I think, this pioneer heritage and preserve. So I feel like dude is being used for a lot of different reasons, whether he's motivating the usage or not, I don't know. The point is that he's on the face of a lot of bad bills.
Accurate. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts this week. I think my producer is about to leave us, and he's going to cut off the phone call. So
all right.
We appreciate your input as always. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Goud. See ya. Bye.
Okay. Well, obviously, we always love having Monica on. We love anyone calling in. I don't really care about your viewpoints. Just call in. Here's what we want. I'm going to talk about with my friend Brandy. Let me share this with you. It turns out I was a little bit inaccurate in this post I did, but I'll let her talk about it. Hold on. Let me just send her this. Copy link. Actually, call this. I think you can do it without video. If not, okay. So, yes, have a good meeting, Mr. Producer. Mr. Producer is very politically active, so he's got to do other stuff. Okay, so here's what I was going to say. you have these multicultural nights that happen in local schools, right? It happens all over the place, including where I grew up in Illinois. And so my friend, when her daughter's school had one, her daughter has a lot of Middle Easterners in it, or I would say children of Middle Eastern descent. So the parents are immigrants and the children are most likely born in the U.S. And then a lot of Hispanics as well. So she said when they had multicultural night, the implication of multicultural nights is typically it excludes Americans. It excludes American culture. And she and her boyfriend, I guess, or partner, whatever you'll call them, they actually, for her daughter, they did an America one. For multicultural night, they did American culture. And so I want her to talk about it because I just think that is amazing. That's the way that we should be doing things, is you should stop kowtowing to leftists and their ridiculous things. Okay, let me call my friend. Because it turns out I'm just going to call her. It'll be a little bit easier here. Oh, it's it. Hello? Okay, you ready? Yeah, I'm going to put you on speaker. Okay. Hey, Brandy, welcome to the show.
Hi, Goud. Glad to be back.
Okay, just for everyone listening, Brandy is my friend from high school, and she's the one that came on a few weeks ago, or it might have been a couple months ago, when there was a boy allowed to play in a track meet, on a girls' team in a track meet in the neighboring district. Before we get into this other issue, Brandy, are there any updates on the boys playing in girls' sports in Illinois, and specifically actually in Naperville?
No, I never received any sort of email response. I did go to, they had a board meeting, and I did speak at the board meeting. But all they basically said was that they're going to stick to it. They did inform us there's 3 other boys playing on girls' sports in the district. We just don't know about them. And they were just going to continue to do that. So it kind of went nowhere.
Wow, yes. That's insane. Oh.
Yes. So it was very volatile meeting, I must say. There was somebody tried to attack an elderly man and had to be removed by police, and there was screaming. It was very volatile.
Wow. I showed my parents the video of your comment. I think I actually played it for the audience. And my dad said the other day, he actually just brought it up randomly, is she was very eloquent in her comment.
Oh, I love your dad. I miss him. Well, I was calm, but they had a whole group of people. You couldn't see them on camera. They were in another room watching it on a TV screen, but they were just screaming. Anytime somebody said the word trans, they would chant woman, and they just kept yelling the whole time. And that's what the board meeting didn't show you, was the behind the scenes. And there was an elderly man who's probably got to be 85 with his elderly wife, and they were really antagonizing this gentleman and his wife and saying nasty things to his wife, who didn't speak a word. And it came to the point where the elderly man had to defend his wife, and somebody tried to attack him. And they were just picking on the elderly couple. He had a Trump hat on. I guess that was their motive, was because of that. But yeah, they were being awful to this old lady. And then the guy tried to attack this elderly man, and he had to be removed by the police, screaming all the way down the hallway and everything. That's the part they just didn't show you.
Wow.
Bad behavior.
You guys need a movement, Brandy, to make Illinois great again. It was such a great place to grow up. It just seems like it's devolved into the California of the Midwest, except it doesn't have the beautiful weather.
And we've got our own Gavin Newsom. We've got Pritzker, which, he's not really concerned about anything that I am. My property taxes are sky high, and the schools are expensive, and he just goes around talking about, illegal immigration and things that, I don't think really affect the citizens here, that we would like to focus on other things. But That's what he does.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about this multicultural night, right? So in Britain, there was a multicultural night, and an English girl was removed for wearing, I think the Union Jack is the British flag, like a British flag dress. She was removed from the event for celebrating British culture. And I remember you talking about a multicultural night at your daughter's school and how you guys did you guys had the American culture booth. Like, talk about that. Tell us about that.
So the backstory is my daughter's grade school. She's in junior high now. Was very, I would probably say, rough estimate, about 70% Middle Eastern Indians. So they dominated the school, which is fine. But the buildup is that at that grade school, you were not allowed to talk about Christianity at all. So, or any of our holidays, including Halloween. They lumped Halloween into that. So they had a policy where you couldn't wear a shirt with like a pumpkin, like a jack-o'-lantern or a black cat, no Santa shirts, no Rudolph shirts. Everything was deemed offensive to this group of people. We didn't have Halloween parties in class anymore. We had a fall party, but you couldn't represent Halloween at all in the fall party, which I got in trouble for by accidentally showing a jack-o'-lantern, and apparently that was a big issue that they had to talk to me about, and it was an accident. Another lady got in trouble for a skeleton skull that she accidentally had with her. So that was kind of the buildup, is that, and like in class they would talk about Diwali and Eid, I think it's called, the Muslim holiday and stuff. Yeah. And my daughter learned all about that, but you weren't allowed to talk about Christian holidays at all, even to the point where they had a door where they decorate for each season, and it was winter time, and each kid got to draw something to put on the door. My daughter drew a Christmas tree. Yeah. And they made her take it down because they said that was very offensive. You can put up a pine tree, but not a decorated pine tree. So that was kind of the buildup of our experience there. Because we were the minority, people would say things to my daughter about, like, the other kids would say things like, brown skin's better, brown hair's better. And she's, a little white girl with blonde hair, and she was the minority. So she was constantly getting fed that, like, the other people were better. And then they also kind of would tell her that, you have no culture. We have culture. You don't have culture. Wow. So my daughter actually started learning Polish because she's half Polish, and she wanted to feel connected to some sort of culture. And they were telling her, like, American is not a culture. So we ended up with this multicultural night at the end of her 5th grade year, and you can go online and see what people are signing up to do, and everything is like very Middle Eastern, Indian, boots, and different cool things like henna and stuff I've got no issue with, but there was no representation of anything American, and I decided that was my chance to actually represent our culture. So I signed up for American culture, and nobody said anything, so I just rolled with it. And I set up a little booth, and I made a poster board. And I admit, I probably poked the bear a little bit, because on the poster board, I put Christmas, I put Halloween, I had Santa Claus, I had jack-o'-lanterns, I had all the holidays we weren't allowed to mention. I had things like, baseball and American pie and all kinds of representation of America. I also had the different religions in America and what percentage of America were those religions, showing that Christianity is actually the main religion. Yeah. And so I had all that there. And the irony is, one of my coworkers helped me put together a lot of it, and she's Mexican American. And she was a big supporter of showing American culture, and she was Mexican American. So I put it together. I brought it there. Some people were very happy most of them were not. So like we got a lot of people who'd walk by just kind of giving us like the stink eye and staring at us. And we wanted to get a snack at one point, and then somebody suggested you might not want to leave that booth unattended.
Wow.
So there was a fear that if I went to get a snack, somebody might do something to my posters. So I had to have someone guard my booth to go get a snack and come back. So that was kind of the experience leading up to it. I will say we've entered junior high, and junior high is about 50% split between like white kids and, Middle Eastern Indian kids. And now for the first time, my daughter got to actually say Christmas in class. And they actually, for the first time, allowed them to dress up for Spirit Week for Christmas time. And she wore a Santa hat all week. And all the kids are very excited about that. But it took her to get to junior high to be able to actually acknowledge the holidays that she celebrates, because everybody told us it was offensive and we were offending people by having these holidays, which we're not even super religious. So we don't really do the nativity scene. We do the fun, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Reindeer kind of thing, which I don't know how that's offensive to anybody, but we were told that for a long time. So now she gets to celebrate a little bit more. But I'm sure, if there's an increase of, certain cultures in the school, I'm sure we might end up back like we were in grade school, where you couldn't even say these words. But they openly celebrated all the other holidays in school and taught them about them.
That's so wild to me, because since we grew up together, that's so different than when we grew up, right? Meaning that I felt like we actually had a common American culture, and we had these cool things on the side where we each had them, right? Because like I had the Indian culture, Sam had some Sam's another one of our friends, had some Indian culture and Middle Eastern culture too. And then you also had culture. Like we used to go to your grandmother's house for Easter, remember?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just wild to me.
It's not like the way we grew up, where everybody had some different backgrounds and we were all American kids. Some, you guys all had parents that were immigrants and such, and everyone just got along, and we celebrated each other's stuff just fine. It's now like diversity at her school it wasn't true diversity. It was actually like elimination. And they were trying to eliminate the American culture, the American holidays completely from everybody. And it wasn't like our diversity where we all were different but celebrated. We used to say our group of friends were the United Nations. We just represented so many different people and cultures. And I hung out at your house, and you hung out at mine, and you hung out with my grandma even when I wasn't there. So,
true.
Yeah, she says, and she was Catholic, and my grandpa was Jewish, and my mom was practicing Lakota Indian religion. And you guys all had your things, and everybody was fine. But they're really trying to dominate. And I learned once a group of people becomes the majority, they just try to eliminate the other stuff. They're not showing respect towards the other stuff. They're just trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's so sad, because I feel like, at least from what I see, kids today are just not getting that kind of the uniting. I really felt like we were all just, like you said, American kids with different backgrounds, and it was all just interesting. It was like fun, interesting. Like you met my grandmothers. Like you got like all this kind of stuff where it was just like, it was just cool stuff. Nothing like special or anything different. It was just kind of like, that's how it is, and then we'll just go on and do our American stuff, right? There was nothing like, well, I'll go to Starbucks, we're going to go hang out at the park, like things like that.
Yes, you invite me to the 4th of July in your neighborhood for the free hot dogs.
Right.
It's like, so it's, we were all fine, and it's just very, I can sense it with my daughter that like she always feels like she's not part of something, because they kind of make her believe that just being a regular American kid with just American holidays isn't anything. So she's always like feels like an outside. That's why she started learning the language, because everybody else has another language in the house, and she only spoke English, so she felt left out. So it's not like how we grew up, and like I said, they're not particularly kind, and anything they don't like, they just label it as offending them. So then you have to stop.
Yeah.
So it's been a little rough. And like I said, I embrace diversity. It's just not how it was when we were younger. And a lot of the groups in my neighborhood kind of keep to themselves and stuff. So,
sad.
Yeah, there's not a big desire to just kind of assimilate. And your parents are very. Your dad used to go dancing with us at boogie nights. Like he loved everything 70s, and he was an Indian man from India hanging out with us, dancing to 70s music. And it was great. Everybody participated. And I feel like, a lot of my daughter's friends' parents don't really even have an interest in getting to know me. We had one parent like kind of flip out when she found out I had Jewish heritage because she was Egyptian, and that was like an issue for her, which that's another thing. We've had to actually kind of hide our Jewish roots a lot. My daughter's afraid to tell people that we have Jewish roots because she said they speak so poorly about Jews already at this age that she feels people won't be her friend if they find out that she is Jewish blood. So that's been a whole nother issue. Yeah.
Oh man.
Which is not anything. I mean, we had a friend that was like Erica was. She was Jewish and Muslim all at the same time. Of Jewish mom, Muslim. Yeah, she celebrated both sets of holidays just fine.
Yeah.
And now you can't tell people you're Jewish, or else they might not hang out with you. And my daughter's afraid of that.
Wow. Oh man, crazy. Okay.
The problem is it's a very good school district, so I got stuck here.
Yeah.
The education's really good. She might be scarred for life, but she doesn't read.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in, Brandy. We always appreciate the updates.
No problem. Anytime, Goud. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Man. Oh, that's kind of sad that that's where this has ended up. We did have a friend who was half Muslim, half Jewish when we were growing up. It wasn't an issue. Like it's horrible where things have gone. I do feel bad for kids today because I think that, and I don't know what it is, because the parents of the kids today would have grown up like I did, meaning race wasn't really an issue. If it was noticed to the extent it was an issue, it was just kind of cool. Like, hey, you're a little bit different. You're like your parents from India, cool. They have good food, or oh, you have this thing that we like. Like like I said, I used to go to her grandmother's house for Easter like brunch, and I actually used to go over there all the time because she was really cool, and she like we'd go visit her because she treated us just like her grandkids, and so I think this it's sad what's happened. A lot of the people that grew up in a situation where race really wasn't an issue have turned around and allowed themselves to be manipulated to think that race is an issue, and then have now, I think, kind of ruined it for their own children. But I see like way more race consciousness today among younger children than I ever had growing up, and I don't understand it. I think it's really sad, and I wish parents would do more to try to stop talking about this stuff and make people, because really like the reason why your kids are conscious about it, it's because of you. And it's because of the stuff that they're watching and the stuff that they're listening to, and your own failure to push back against it as being a bad thing for our society. So on that note, I realize a little bit of negative, but there's always hope in this stuff. We can all turn this stuff around, but it's going to take effort by people to start actually to be willing to sacrifice and to actually help turn this stuff around so that kids can actually have that better existence where, you're all American kids, regardless of your background, you have a common culture. And all this other stuff about you is just kind of interesting background stuff, right? Everyone has kind of an interesting story, and we should all want to hear them. So anyway, on that note, thank you very much for listening to the Goud Crowd this week. We will be back again next Monday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can find us live streaming on X at my handle, which is Goud for the number 4 Utah. So Goud, Goud, the number 4 Utah. And you can find us on KMMU.org. as well as YouTube, Rumble, and X for the Main Street Media Utah handles. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to sign out.